So the title is a little bit clickbaity. Chance the Rapper isn't some sort of messiah.
I'm into becoming Christ.
Okay, maybe he is. He is a major independent artist without the backing of a major record label. Chance the Rapper's career is introducing a new way of playing ball in the music industry in a way that gives him way more control, protects his long-term earnings, and doesn't allow his likeness to be used for a post-mortem hologram tour. Chance the Rapper has accomplished a lot, including being the only rapper to win a Grammy, 3 Grammys to be precise, without a physical release after helping convince the Academy to change requirements on nominations. He got Apple to release Surf for free on iTunes and got $500,000 for temporary exclusivity and has made $6 million on hats.
I made $6 million in 1 year off these hats, yo.
All while being unsigned. Typically, an artist needs a huge backing to sustain a career at this scale, and it has always been like this. However, Chance's career has effectively disrupted preconceived notions on how to navigate a career in music. Chance's success should prompt musicians to look at the process differently. I feel many artists don't think about scale or know how to scale. Even if you don't feel the need to win Grammys or play on live TV, there's still much to learn from Chance & Co. about how to do business and brand as an artist to sustain a career unsigned. One of the 2 main components revealed within Chance's career is his business strategy. Now, by no means does a musician have to follow the same exact business model, but it is essential to have long-term goals and to work towards those goals. Many musicians fear business, and some assume it affects the creative process somehow. For some, that might be the case, but if you want to earn money making music, you need a system, and you or someone on your team needs to understand how business works. For Chance, he's always had a small team that allows for more to get done than by himself, but small enough to be agile. Within his company, he trusts a couple of people to work with him, like Pat the manager, his manager, and Brandon Breaux, who designed the covers of all of Chance's mixtapes. Keeping control and small allows you to move fast, unlike Rich the Kid's label, who delayed one of his mixtapes and delayed the release of Migos Culture 1. Teams are undoubtedly necessary for scaling past the DIY scene to fulfill the larger demand for your brand. Chance releases his music for free. Like right now, you can go to DatPiff and download his music right now. Generally speaking, this is a bad idea. Sometimes the reason an artist signs is for immediate financial reasons. The thought of an artist not collecting money for music downloads is wild. How in the hell do you make money? Streaming? With the rise of self-serve distribution online with services like TuneCore and DistroKid, you can keep all the royalties in publishing, but streaming music does not pay well. Unless, of course, you are a big artist or can maintain music being rotated in playlists, college radio, or some other influencer space. Additionally, for some, sample clearing becomes simple. Disclaimer, I am not a lawyer. The concept of sample clearing comes from music copyright, or in Chance's words.
So, once I release the song, there is what's called a master and a publishing portion of the record. So the master is the recording of it. So if I sign a record deal or a recording deal, I sign away my masters, which means the label owns the recording of that music. On the publishing side, if I write a record and I sign away my publishing in a publishing deal, they own the composition of work. So the idea of it, you know what I'm saying? So if I play your song on piano that you wrote, I have to pay you publishing money because it comes from that idea. Or if I sing a line from that song, it's from the publishing portion. If I sample the actual record, if I take a piece of that actual recorded music, that's from the master. None of that shit makes any sense, right? That shit didn't make any sense to you?
A copyright is an intellectual property in which the owner has complete rights of usage for said property. When someone creates a song by themselves, the song has 2 copyrights, master recording and composition. Master recording is the actual track as an MP3, and the composition is arrangement, lyrics, and melody. It's really confusing to get into the nitty-gritty, but when you hear artists talking about not signing away your publishing, it's because if a song hits big, you need to earn that money. Also, if the owner of a copyright of a song finds a sample is used, it's up to them to figure out what to do. Notoriously, though Frank Ocean released Nostalgia Ultra for free,
are technically samples, you gotta clear them. Eagle sample has no chance in hell of being cleared.
Also in a video, Pat the manager talks about how Chance wanted to sell Acid Rap after it came out, but their lawyers said it was a bad idea because they were uncleared samples. Putting it out for free can sometimes protect you from copyright owners, but I wouldn't advise sampling a large body of work and just releasing it. Giving your music out for free also decreases the friction between you and a new audience member. But just releasing music and asking for purchases is harder because people just want to stream. Get your music out there and as far as possible to pique interest and to sell something else. What most don't know is the music industry has been like this for a while now. This is what will.i.am spills about making money in the music industry in an interview with Wall Street Journal in 2014.
The dirty little secret is that very, very few artists actually made a really healthy living selling records in the history of the music industry, because people forgot that the music industry was always technology. Like, people forgot that RCA was technology that Americans used in World War I and II. Music is supposed to build bars, and you were supposed to sell other things with it.
And Chance knew this in 2013.
He's like, because he understands like music is an advertisement. It's advertisement for a brand now, and kids get his brand.
The main way Chance makes money now is touring, merch, and brand deals. A big break for Chance was Donald Glover. They met via a publicist after a Kids These Days show he opened for. I definitely think Donald's push helped Chance go even further. Arming yourself with knowledge and striking at opportunities when possible will put you at the best position to win. When you tour, do not tour alone, and tour strategically. Chance wouldn't be where he is without the help of other artists and his fans. If you don't have access to the biggest artists, go around the area for some popping artists and see if they would be interested in splitting the bill. Also use analytics data from streaming services to see where your fans might be. Additionally, festivals and schools might get you a pretty penny at the beginning of your career as opposed to smaller DIY shows. Merch is an amazing way to make additional direct money at shows or passive income. When people buy merch, they want to rep the brand, what the brand stands for, who was involved, and any feelings associated. Merch can also be very cheap to produce yourself, like shirts, CDs, and USB drives. More recently and famously, Chance made the Chance 3 hats in preparation for Coloring Book's release. A beautiful marriage of brand and business. Instead of going to the White Sox, Chance did it himself, making $6 million on hats, and claims others can do so too. All in all, merch is a great way for an audience to connect with an artist, and Chance shows that merch is an excellent way to make money and connect with fans. Brand deals are another way of making money. This is where a lot of shakiness has come from fans, as they feel partnerships don't make you independent. In my opinion, independent is majority stake in your brand and company. If you own your masters, if you own your publishing, if you have the right to work with whoever you want, you are independent. Chance has said something similar.
That's why I'm independent, not because I didn't get no help. I'm independent because I own all my recording rights and my publishing rights and distribution and everything.
So when Chance works with Kit Kat, Red Bull, and Apple Music, he still has his masters. He's just lending his brand temporarily to earn some money. However, record deals and brand deals are extremely similar. Each are bound by a contract that lays out the terms, definitions, and context of the relationship. Therefore, each should be read and revised depending on what each party wants. For example, a record deal could be a $5,000 advance on a single release with the label splitting the publishing, but you own the masters. Anytime you sell a song, you get the money for it, but when it's streamed, you only get a portion. You can't usually negotiate this unless you have some sort of clout. A brand deal is similar, but typically brands don't use music copyright as collateral. You just can't legally say anything bad about the brand. You have a lot less to lose in brand deals, and it seems like a better deal than getting a platinum charting song on radio and not getting a penny for it. Chance's business strategy taught me to own majority stake in myself and my company. For musicians, your music is everything, and combined with new interneting efforts, there are many ways to make money online from your craft than just signing or just selling music. Though business strategy is very important, without branding, your strategy means nothing. Branding is super important. Making sure you have some sort of a presence online is necessary, even if your business model doesn't need a number of fans to pay for things. Branding is a lot of things. It is the efforts you make to show your audience who and what you are, and what your audience thinks about you. Branding, even more than just business, is different for everyone. Like, finding Christ won't work for everyone, so don't do that. First impressions are super important, and continuing your story after your debut needs to be logical. Rebranding is sometimes necessary to move into different territories, but if you don't transition properly, you may leave your fans confused. When Chance announced Coloring Book and it was shown to be way different than acid rap, people were confused. People were lost, and if you don't answer that in a timely fashion, you can lose fans. Chance eventually addressed the change. Seeing a friend die, overcoming Xanax addiction, and having a child with his partner brought him closer to God. You can understand a little bit on why people who were fans before Coloring Book were critical of the rebranding. The situation reveals the need to know your audience before making brand decisions like that. Not mentioned is the fact that being an artist is hard and requires a lot from you. Balance what you need to share, and you'll have energy for the interacting you'll be doing with your audience. Being able to answer questions and share updates to your audience is very important in maintaining a connection. Without maintenance, it is not impossible to keep an audience, but that typically requires standout work and a mysterious persona already established. Promotion is super important to all artists because if you aren't establishing yourself in the minds of your audience, you won't be heard. There are millions of ways to promote your brand, and depending on your goals, whether it be an ongoing project or campaign for a new one. Chance has been involved with a few, but I have two favorites tied to his music. First is his 3 hat, which has been seen with him so many times it is tied to his identity. Second was his postering campaign before Chance 3 dropped. Chance retweeted people who took pictures of the posters on Twitter. Although these methods of promotion will not pique everyone's interest, it will get people talking and activate fans as brand evangelists. Some fans might try to get their friends on, and some people will just be curious enough to check out Chance's new music. Through Chance, I learned that branding is a matter of standing out against every single thing on the internet and trying to make sure people always choose you. Chance is a superstar at this point and apparently isn't even finished. Not all artists need or want that fame, but it's possible to still learn a thing or two. Additionally, none of Chance's money came from selling his music. Chance knew the music was an advertisement for his brand and the rest of the money-making opportunities he has. Understanding the business and how to brand yourself can get you to your goals of having a career in music. Not everything is compatible with everyone, but business favors experimenting and disruption. At its most basic, business is just having fans, and branding is getting people to talk about you. There are other ways to make money with your music that don't involve selling or signing to a label. Borrow ideas from other industries. Patreon could enable a producer like Gonage to release music for free or sell their own tickets. Building your audience is a matter of reaching people. Talk directly with people with influence, try Instagram ads, and blogs still work. The internet has opened a ton of avenues for your own success, mostly untouched by anyone else's prerogative. Even though Pat the manager admitted it was hard to do what Chance and he did, imagine making money on your terms, making more money, and opportunities in other fields. Depending on your deal, record labels can try to change what makes you, and you could be one of the many stories of artists who are super jaded with working with a label. But what do I know? Chance is out here making $6 million on just hats because of the way he built himself.
Joe's been wearing a Scully for 15 years and they made $1 off it.
Word. Yeah.
All right, now I see why when we're on album 7, we're still going to have the 3
That's
hat
not.
on. I get it.
But just check, yo. I'm buying these hats at like $650.
Wait, these kids want the 3? I got some 3 jeans coming.
$650.
I got
it's
some
just
5
in the
hats.
hat. It's strategic, and I think anybody could do that shit though.
But what about if you're young, sir, and you have this great dream of becoming a musician, and you get this deal with a record company, and they tell you got it, that you would, kind of compromise and say, yeah, okay, you can have it.
No se sentiría enseguida a gusto de saber que ya tiene un contrato y se lanzaría.
There's a story in the Bible
Hay una historia en la Biblia
where
donde
the devil offered Jesus the
el
world
demonio ofrece a Jesús el mundo
and he refused
y él lo rechazó
and thus gained his soul.
y así ganó su alma.
And that's all I'm going to say about that.
Y eso es todo lo que voy a decir.